Back to the desperate struggle of 1941 and 1942, the Battle of the Atlantic. For a time, we were losing that battle. The ships that were sunk and the cargoes that went down with them were sorely needed in England, in Africa, in Russia. Month by month in 1941 and 1942, the toll mounted. No ship was safe, for the raiders of Admiral Dönitz were everywhere. Our cargo vessels were sunk within sight of our boardwalk. Their flames lighted the very streets of our blacked-out city.
It was just another spring morning along the Gulf Coast until a flash of water, metal and fire shattered the calm. On May 12, 1942, just 5 months after Pearl Harbor, a German U-boat did the unthinkable. It torpedoed a U.S. oil tanker right at the mouth of the Mississippi River. This is the little-known story of the SS Virginia, the forgotten American crew, and how a Nazi submarine infiltrated the very doorstep of the U.S. heartland. The SS Virginia was a 10,731-ton oil tanker built for endurance, not speed. It departed from Texas, heading toward Baton Rouge to offload fuel, unarmed, unescorted, and unaware of the predator waiting below. U-507, a Type 19C German submarine, had already sunk 6 other ships off the Gulf Coast. But Schacht wasn't done. At 2:10 a.m., a torpedo struck the Virginia amidships, detonating her fuel tanks. The explosion ignited a massive oil fire that lit the night sky. Flames rose hundreds of feet. Of the 41 men on board, 27 were lost, burned alive or drowned in the Gulf. This wasn't random. The attack was part of Operation Drumbeat, Germany's covert plan to strike fear into America by hitting its shipping lanes. And it worked. Between January and August 1942, over 400 ships were sunk along US coasts. The Gulf of Mexico alone saw nearly 50 sinkings, with U-507 responsible for nearly 20 deaths before even reaching the Virginia. The US had underestimated the reach of the Kriegsmarine. With no convoy system in place and bright city lights illuminating the coast, merchant ships became floating targets. The attack on the SS Virginia shocked the nation, revealing the vulnerability of the US mainland to foreign attack. But it also triggered a dramatic shift in US defense strategy, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. In the wake of the Virginia sinking, the US rapidly realized it needed to adapt. A number of measures were immediately enacted to protect vital shipping routes, ensuring that future attacks like this wouldn't go unchecked. First, the US Navy ramped up patrols along the Gulf Coast. A convoy system was introduced for oil tankers and merchant ships, ensuring ships traveled in groups, protected by Navy escorts. This system, along with increasing the presence of destroyers and cruisers, turned the tide against the U-boats in the region. Additionally, coastal defences were bolstered. The Civil Air Patrol, initially created to spot enemy aircraft, was now tasked with spotting and tracking German U-boats. Soon, air cover would be the final piece in a more effective, integrated defence strategy along US shores. These new measures weren't just reactive, they were strategic, designed to ensure that America's vital shipping routes remained safe from further German aggression. And though it took time, the shift paid off. By the end of 1942, U-boat sinkings off the US coast began to dramatically drop. Today, the SS Virginia lies in over 300 feet of water off the Louisiana coast, undisturbed, unmarked, and largely forgotten. But its story matters. It reminds us that war doesn't always arrive with an invasion. Sometimes it slips in silently, beneath the waves, targeting civilians, economy, and morale. And in remembering these moments, We also remember the people who stood between chaos and stability, not with weapons, but with courage, fuel, and steel.
If the men of the old Navy had been looking down from some quarterdeck in the sky, they've seen strange things. Steel ships maneuvering at high speed, roaring mechanical monsters catapulted from their decks, and an enemy vessel heaving up from the depths. But one thing is familiar. One thing hasn't changed. The courage, resolution, and hardy seamanship of the men of our Navy.